Well, here we are again with another radio from the mid-1970s. This is a Philips 90 AL750. It's a 4-band radio, probably fairly high in their model range, I guess. It feels fairly solid and heavy. Obviously, this one has been in the wars a bit, but a lot of it is basically intact. There's a couple of things that drew me to it. This lovely band selector here, which feels really good, and also the little blue highlights on it. And it's not just the fact that they've got blue text on there, which seems to it looks quite good to me. And then they've put these little blue knobs on the volume and tone controls. And there's another nice touch: the telescopic aerial has got like a little blue thing on the top of it, and it just fits in and sits in that hole there. So yes, it all feels quite flush once you've retracted it. On this side as well, you've got a fine-tuning control as well as a tuning control, and that's given that it's got shortwave, that's a useful thing to have, I would think. And I'm guessing that only operates on the AM bands. Probably, as I said, it's probably put there for shortwave, because when you try and tune things on shortwave, you really have only a very tiny amount that you have to try and zoom in on. So having a fine-tuning thing helps with that if you want to listen on shortwave, of course, which not many people do, but it's always good to have the capability, I suppose. So it's mostly, as I said, intact. The only thing that's missing is the handle, so that's gone. And that's never a good sound, is it, when something's rattling about inside it? So we're going to have a look at that. It's got either 4 D cells or a mains power option. So let's plug it into the mains and see what we can get. Right, power is on. Let's got it on long wave. Let's see what happens. So
links to the Russian President Vladimir Putin. BBC News. This is BBC Radio 4. Hello. You fancy starting?
So long wave is fine. Let's try medium wave. We should be around. Not brilliant reception, even given that this is a very high interference area. I'm not getting. There's still more interference I'd like on that. I'm not going to try shortwave here. I'm also going to try it on FM. Better pull the aerial up a bit and see what we get there.
Excited to sign a new 1-year deal at the Abbey, and it's at 12:30 kick-off for Peterborough United today as they conclude their championship season at home against Blackpool.
That's interesting.
Cambridge's weather: scattered showers, sunny spells, highs.
When I say that's interesting, I don't mean Radio Cambridgeshire. I mean the fact that.
For an update anytime, ask your smart speaker to play BBC News for Cambridgeshire.
As I hold and pick up the mains lead, I'm getting more interference. So I'm getting the feeling this set is picking up quite a lot of interference from the mains lead. So what I'm going to do is take the mains lead out, I'm going to put batteries in and see if that makes it sound any better. Right, let's get the back off it. Can't see. There's a screw in there as well, so it looks like these 5 screws are the answer to that. Right, screws are all out, so does it just come apart? It's not coming apart this end. One side is, one side isn't. That didn't sound good, but nevertheless it has come apart now. There we go. So yes, the back's come off. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. There's like thing glued onto here is like a Vero pin. It's like the pins that you put through circuit boards. Why that would be there, I don't know. But that's odd. I don't know what it was that was rattling about. That's just bits of these pins. Why are these pins in it? I don't know why that's happened. It's very odd that those would have got in there, and that's what's rattling about. Ferrite aerial's intact, which is good. As I said, the telescopic is fine. It's just a question of how to get it out to get at that piece of perspex or get it all apart. So I'm guessing the first thing is to look for these screws that are holding it all together. In other words, what's holding this whole chassis in the front. So that screw looks a likely candidate. I'm guessing there might be one underneath. No, there isn't one under there. Maybe. Ah, look. There's a screw right under that thing there. Take that off. Now it all comes out. And another screw or two. Oh, and the other bit of the handle. Right, so the next thing to look at are these things for the switches. So that goes over the switch. So that goes over the switch here. So we probably ought to keep those in place. So how do we get this piece of perspex out is the next question. Or can we just clean it up? Is there a possibility of cleaning it? I'm not so sure. I'm going to try that first before having to try and remove these welding points and remove it completely. Well, unfortunately, the perspex didn't clean up properly. I had a few goes at it. I tried the usual things, the rubbing compound and stuff, but it still had this sort of haze on it. So I did find some perspex. I had a bit of thin perspex left, which I've used. I did also have some 3mm perspex around, which is probably nearer to what was originally in here, except it takes a bit longer to cut and size that for, whereas with thin perspex you can just score it with a Stanley knife, which is much easier. Obviously you don't come to this channel looking for Protestant work ethic or anything like that. One of the big problems was getting the thing out, because the only true way to get the original out would be to undo all of these plastic welds and pull the box apart and get that front panel off, because the original one was sort of like sandwiched in there, which made it very difficult to get out. And I tried maybe melting these plastic welds. I tried it with that one, but it started to melt the surrounding plastic, which wasn't very good. So I thought, well, that's not a good way forward. In the end, I ended up paging Dr. Dremel and cut it all out, and then pulled the remaining bits out from the sides. So that, that took a while, and I had a bit of a Terry moment when I pushed my thumb into some hot melted plastic, which wasn't a highlight. But in any case, I got this other piece of perspex cut to size, and that's in there now, so that's good. I think Philips must have bought a job lot of this dodgy plastic, because the same misty-eyed glaze is here on this pointer. It's even more difficult to get rid of. I did try and clean it up a little bit, but again, I can't replace that, because obviously it's a much more difficult part. It's got hooks and things. I didn't want to push it too hard in trying to clean it, because I didn't want to break it or scratch the scale or pull the tuning mechanism apart and have to rewind that. But I think I've improved it a little bit. Now you might also be wondering why this switch is hanging out here. I have noticed from the beginning that there's been a little bit of intermittency in the on and off switch, and I was hoping that this toggle was just a part slipped over a totally standard switch, but it doesn't look like that's the case. It looks like this switch was made specifically for this radio, and you can't just replace it with a standard one, not any of the ones I've got or can see online anyway, which is annoying. So I'm just going to demonstrate what the problem is. I can't do it very easily because the batteries go under here, so with the cover off, I can't put the batteries under there, they all fall out again, so I have to turn it upside down, and I've had to pull the switch out to have a look at it anyway.
Stretching the play.
So it's okay at the moment, but you can hear it sort of hesitate sometimes. It's not going to go wrong now, is it? Because I've got it on video. So I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. I have tried cleaning it. It just doesn't seem quite right. What I've noticed, though, if you look carefully at the contacts, there's actually two sets of contacts here. So it's a double pole switch. They've only used one pole of it. So I'm thinking maybe I'll switch the wiring to the other pole and see if that pole's more reliable, and that would solve the problem. Right, so I've changed it around now and put it on the other side of the switch, and I think that's a lot more reliable.
Probably one of the worst things you can expect. They're showing a good attitude. And that Grant continues to build that relationship with the players that are going to be here next year.
Yeah, I think that's fine. So we've dodged a bullet there on that one by being able to use part of the switch that's still working. So that's good. I'll put it all back together, and we'll see how it all looks and sounds.
Now you know why I don't use public phones.
Oh, public? That's a misnomer if ever I heard one.
Oh. To 2020 Tokyo Olympics, July 26, 2021, and Chinese street skateboarder Zheng Wenhui got 6th place.
Darber rules clear, finds Kelly.
Sometimes I just want to give up.
So not too much drama today then, and I think a pretty successful tidy up on this one. Although the only thing is there's no handle, which I thought I had a handle from a scrap set that would fit it, but it was a little bit too short. One of the things I did think about, though, and notice later on, was that this set, unlike a lot of others, doesn't have a headphone socket. It's got the DIN socket for recording and playback, so you can plug things through it and play it through the speaker, but it hasn't got a headphone socket. So actually, if you weren't bothered about the handle, you could use one of these holes where the handle would have been to put a headphone socket in it. I thought that might be a useful addition rather than trying to find another handle. Anyway, that's it. The Philips 90AL750 done and dusted.